Jan knew that while there was still time, he must go back and find the gypsies. Early the next day, he rode out to Hainault Forest. Here, each year, gypsies from all over the country gathered, making the most of the chance to gossip and trade in horses and ponies. It was evening by the time he found out where Tobias Cooper's camp was, nestled at the edge of the forest. Tobias embraced Jan. "I knew you would return, and I know we have not much time, because you're going back across the water." He took Jan to his tent, and they sat down together in front of the fire, where the kettle bubbled away. "Now, let us try again," said Tobias, as if no time had passed. A cup rose into the air, and the kettle tipped and poured tea into it. "What do you see?" asked Tobias. "A cup having tea poured into it by an invisible hand." "I did not ask you to look," said Tobias. "Looking is what all fools do. I asked you to see. From here." He pressed his thumb hard in the middle of Jan's forehead. "This is how you must learn to see. Not with your eyes. They are so easily tricked. Now, drink." Jan held the cup tight. He needed the warmth of the tea for comfort. He said, "I stopped believing." "That goes without saying," said Tobias. It was not until the moon had taken sovereignty over the night sky that Tobias and Jan left the camp and started to walk through the forest, where the trees stood like sentinels watching for intruders. At last they came to a clearing, an eerie place surrounded by oak trees, on top of which the moon seemed to be balancing. It was a circular clearing, off which led 7 paths. Jan had the sensation of walking not on the mossy ground, but on a membrane that divided 2 worlds. Tobias sat down in the middle of the clearing, Jan beside him, and started to play a penny whistle. It made no sound, or at least none that Jan could hear. After a while, lights began to appear down each path. Phantom-like figures came into focus, no more substantial than mist. Jan watched, hypnotized, as on the path directly in front of him stood a wizened woman. "Who called for me?" she asked. Tobias stood up and gave a deep bow. "I did. I have brought the young man, as I promised I would." Jan watched as she seemed to fade and then become whole again. "Come here," she called out to him. Then the strangest thing happened. Without moving, without taking a step, he left his body. He could see himself still standing next to Tobias. The old woman held her hands out and he took them. He was being lifted off his feet, up into the night sky, whirling round and round, higher and higher until he was above the treetops, almost touching the moon. Then, without a word, the old woman let go of his hands and he fell back down to earth. He felt a great blow as the 2 parts of himself collided and became one again. The old woman patted the ground next to her, and Jan sat down. Close up, her face looked as wise as the earth is broad. In her eyes he could see all that was known and all that was still to be learned. It felt as though she was looking straight through him. A pain struck him in the middle of his forehead, as if she was pressing a finger through his skull. "Give me your hand," said the old woman. Jan felt her papery skin. He flinched, for there was such power in her grip, and suddenly everything disappeared and he was walking along a road, towards an upturned carriage, its wheels spinning round and round. A young woman was lying by the roadside, all broken, like a china doll. A man was holding her, his horse grazing a little way off. Nearby, Jan could see an infant, her leg broken, her little face contorted with pain. With a jolt, he was aware of being back in the clearing. The fire and the old woman had disappeared. Jan looked around, and for the first time, he saw spider threads of light streaming from all the ghostly figures, overarching him like a huge cat's cradle, until, with the sound of a violin string snapping, they were gone. Jan turned to look at Tobias. He too had threads of light coming from his fingers, and he watched, astounded, as the old man flicked them as a fisherman might cast his line to catch a fish. "I can see!" shouted Jan. "I can see!" "At last," said Tobias. "Now we can start."